All right, there we go. So we're going to start lying down, sort of any position you would like, but the default will be lying with the shoulders on the block. And we'll just take a few moments there. You can have the legs straight, Baddha Konasana, or if you feel particularly called to have the block under the sacrum or to just lie flat on the floor, you could go ahead and do that. All right, and then after you get that physical body a little settled in, bringing your attention to your breath. And then maybe after a few breaths in whatever position you've taken, there's something that needs to be adjusted or shifted a little. So it's a whole process. We arrive physically in the physical body, get that settled somewhere. Take a few breaths, drawing us a little deeper, focusing our awareness. And then maybe we need to make a little adjustment, coming back out more toward the physical body. And then dropping into the subtle body once again. And we'll take a few more breaths here. And then making your way gently up to sitting. And we will sit with the crossed legs, Sukhasana. Using those arms alongside to lengthen up. Getting space between the vertebrae, space in the hip sockets. Maybe a little squinching. Same sort of beginning we do almost every class, and yet it's a whole new experience in this moment. And then finishing with whatever you're doing, bringing the hands onto the knees, palms down or maybe palms up. Inhale and exhale, pouring down the sides of the neck. A little lengthen and flatten against the wall behind you through the spine. Lots of room for that breath to travel up and down the spine, but not engaging muscles so forcefully that it interferes with breathing deeply.
And then let's reach the arms out wide to the side on the diagonal. And we'll breathe them halfway up, parallel to the floor. Really reach fingertip to fingertip, opening up the front of the chest. And then rotate those palms up. And then continue breathing those arms up overhead. And we'll take a few reaches, reaching up the right side, reaching up the left side. And then we'll finish with this, stretching out the hands, big wide, press down, pausing parallel to the floor. Once again, reaching wide. Rotate the palms of the hands up, pressing up with the little finger side of the hand, pulling down with the thumb, and then floating the arms down. And let's take a twist to the right. Inhale, lots of space. Exhale and twist. Coming back to the center, let's twist to the left. Inhale, lots of space. Exhale and twist. Really feeling that breath. And coming back to the center, changing the cross of the legs. And then let's twist to the right once more. Inhale and exhale. Drawing that twist up and out the top of the head. Pulling the muscles into the spine, wrapping around the spine. And then we'll just let that pour out onto the right diagonal. Still feeling a little bit of that twisting to the right. Walking the hands to the center. Deep breath. And coming up, unfurling the spine. And let's twist to the left. Inhale, making space. Exhale, twisting into the space. Lengthen through the top of the head. And then wrapping everything around and into the spine with sort of a squeeze up and out the top of the head. And then pouring over onto the left diagonal. Still feeling that twist drawing up and around a little bit to the left. And coming to the center.
And a few more breaths here in the forward bend. Really expanding and opening the back of the body. And coming up long through the spine, back up through the top of the head. Inhale and exhale, letting all of that settle a moment. And then we'll bring the legs in and coming around onto all fours. And we'll do a few cats and cows. Maybe as you cat back up, you can feel like you're pulling the hands and the knees toward each other. And then you lengthen out in the cow back, pushing the hands and the knees away. Couple more. And then finding a neutral spine, really lifting up through the core. So almost like you're trying to do a cat back, but then you lengthen it out. A long line from the tailbone out the top of the head. And let's extend the right leg back with the toes tucked under, pressing back into that right heel. Maybe lifting up the left knee. And then setting that left leg back down. I'm going to reach long through the right heel, lifting the right leg up, trying to be as flat as you can. And then maybe reaching forward with the left arm as well, feeling a long, flat line, crossing across the body from the right foot to the left hand. And then we're going to bend the right leg, and maybe the left hand will go for the right foot up there, putting the left hand back down. That's another option. And just lifting that right leg with the muscles. And if you've got hold of the foot, make sure you're using those right leg muscles as well. The gluteus maximus, the back of the thigh. And then we'll finish with this. Take a little sit back in child's pose. All right, coming back up. Find your long and flat kneeling position again. We'll do the other leg. So let's see, left leg is going to go back with the toes tucked under, taking a few breaths, pressing back into the heel, feeling like you're doing a one-legged plank. And maybe lifting the right leg up. And setting the right leg down to lift the left leg. Trying to be long and flat. Maybe reaching forward with the right arm. And then our next option, bending the left leg up. Maybe the right hand finds the foot, or the right hand can go back to the floor. And if you've got hold of the foot, make sure you're using that left leg, the gluteus maximus, the back of the thigh, to lift the leg, not just holding it with your hand. And then setting that down, taking a pull back into child's pose. Maybe lifting up the base of the wrist there, giving that a little stretch out for a couple breaths. And then softening over. And then we will expand up into downward facing dog. And breathing up to the sitting bones, pouring down the backs of the legs, walking the dog or anything else you want to do here. And then finishing with that dog walking, finding the best downward facing dog you can do at this moment. And then let's lift the right leg up, reaching long through the heel, reaching a little longer through the heel. Three-legged dog. So we're not doing anything but three-legged dog, so really be here. And then we're going to bend that right knee, dog at the high fire hydrant, and see if you can find some of that strength on all fours to be lifting that right leg up and over a little. And then we'll just set that right leg back down next to the left, bending the knees, coming down, sitting back in child's pose, lifting up the base of the wrist there. Letting that go. And then let's come back up and we'll just do our left leg. Coming back up and downward facing dog. And let's lift the left leg, reaching long through the left heel. Inhale and exhale, breathing it out, encouraging it to lift. Make those elbows nice and straight, squeeze the upper arms toward each other. And then bending the left leg. Dog at the high fire hydrant. Maybe find a little more lift and muscle to use in that left gluteus maximus and back of the leg. And then we'll put that left leg down next to the right. And looking between the hands to jump or step forward to the forward bend. So you can have a little bend in the knees, or our legs might be ready to get a little straighter here. You can pick those hands up off the floor, and let's reach them out a little bit and into a gentle fist and circle the wrists there. And then stretching the hands out. And let's reach our hands up behind to do the interlocked fingers. So go ahead and bend the knees here if needed to get those hands up there and over. Or come up a little bit like I came up away from the floor a little. Got the arms situated, then pouring over a little more. And reaching long through the upper chest, keeping hands interlocked, bringing yourself up. And all the way to lift the chest, to lift the chin. And lengthen through the top of the head up to vertical. Release the hands, letting those arms float down alongside into Tadasana. Inhaling and exhaling. And then let's interlock the fingers from here in our more usual way. And lengthen up the front of the body to lift the chest, to lift the chin. And coming back over. And release the hands. Let's take a concave back with the straight legs and folding over. And then bend the knees so we're not trying to go to Utkatasana, the chair pose. A little bend in the knees and then reach out wide with the airplane arms. So we're going more for flat back rather than chair. So there might not be such a big bend in the knees. Reaching long and flat against the ceiling, belly and ribs into the spine. And then if you can, reaching those arms forward. And if you want to try straightening your legs a little more, go ahead. And then releasing over. Thank goodness. Let's step back with the left leg into the low lunge. Feeling that left heel pressing back long through the top of the head. So you can stay here or maybe coming up in the high lunge. One more breath wherever we are. If you're in the high lunge, coming down and stepping forward. Into the straight leg concave back. Or maybe a little bend if you want, folding over, stepping back with the right leg. And then we're in our left lunge. You can stay here or maybe coming up to the high lunge. And then if you're up, coming back down to step forward into the concave back. Folding over. Let's find that flat back again. A little bend in the knees. Starting with the airplane arms to help yourself come up, out to the side there. Maybe that's enough for adding to the challenge by reaching those arms forward, making the legs maybe a little straighter. Really sink over. And then let's walk the feet out to the edges of the mat. And we'll come into wide Malasana. So remember, your wide Malasana can be way up here if your knees and hips don't want to go lower. Or bringing those sitting bones down more toward the floor, wedging the arms inside. Taking a couple breaths here. And then we're going to sit down on the floor. And having those feet still nice and wide, but maybe not quite so turned out, a little more parallel. Holding on inside the legs, big pull forward and up.
And then we'll go to the floating lotus. And so the legs are going to stay wide, kind of happy baby distance. And balance up on the sitting bones. You can put your hands behind the thighs and bring the shins up parallel to the floor. So my shins are about over the outer edge of the mat, so it's wide. I'm feeling like those shins press up. Top of the head lifts up. You can keep holding on with the hands for a little support, or maybe bring them up, palms up and into the Jian Mudra. Doing your best to feel like everything's floating out. And to breathe at the same time. And then letting those feet come down. And we'll take a nice slow roll down to the floor. You can use the hands on the legs there to help control that roll. Then we're here on the floor. We still have wide feet, so let's keep those feet out closer to the edge of the mat. And we'll do a nice wide bridge pose. All right, so the trick here, though, is you don't want to let your knees fall in toward each other. There's a little bit more press from the outer knee. As you tuck the tailbone up, peeling up off the floor. If you like, interlocking the fingers underneath. Lifting up, feeling a little press out from the outer knee so the legs don't collapse in toward the center. And enjoying this more spacious bridge pose. One more breath here. And then rolling down vertebrae by vertebrae, landing on the floor. And then we'll make our way back up to sitting. A little rolling up, sit up. Maybe getting hold of the legs, move the feet a little forward as needed. And then coming back to that wide feet there, holding on inside, pulling yourself forward and up. And this time we'll add a twist on here. We're going to take the left hand over to the right shin or ankle, twisting right, reaching out and back through the right arm. And then scooping across to the left. And back to the center. And then let's get ourselves back up into that wide Malasana. So might not exactly be the graceful transition, but doing whatever it is mindfully, even if it's kind of awkward. And here we are in a wide Malasana with the hips as low as you want or not. And we'll make our way up to standing. So use the hands on the floor, on the knees if you need to. Pressing into the floor. Coming up. Big reach up through the fingertips. Reach a little more. And a big circle around with the arms to come to Namaste in front. Take a breath, letting yourself arrive in this wide stance. And then reassembling the legs into the center. And let's come over. Big inhale up. And exhale, diving over.
Concave back, folding over, and let's step back to come to the plank. Long and flat against the ceiling. And then lowering yourself slowly to the floor. So maybe a chaturanga, maybe just coming down. So you can also kneel in chaturanga. And we'll all arrive on the floor on our belly. And coming up in the small cobra, taking a couple breaths there. And coming down. Bringing those arms forward onto the elbows into the Sphinx. Pulling forward, reaching back through the legs. And then really reaching through the right leg. Probably your right leg won't lift off the floor, but think of it maybe lightening up or almost lifting, and then bend the knee. And extend the right leg back out. Do the same with the left. Reach a little through the left. Maybe it lifts a little or lightens up, and then bending the left. And extending the left leg out. And then let's do both legs. Reaching a little longer through the feet. Maybe they lighten up a little. And bending the knees. Really press the tailbone down. Reaching down the front of the thighs and out the knees behind you. So we don't want to make our lower back feel too pinchy. If it does, walk your arms a little more forward. Or maybe take a little bit more pull forward. And extending those legs back out. Calming down, letting the forehead rest on the hands a moment. And then bringing those arms forward. Long and flat against the floor. So we're going to lift up here in this extended Shabasana, but maybe not lifting the legs. So we want to focus a little more on the upper body. So lifting that up first, the arms and the upper back. And then maybe the legs will lift as well, but that's not as important right here. Feeling that strength on the back. And then also that strength from underneath. The ribs do a little nip in and pull up. The belly button pulls up to the spine. And coming down. Let's peel ourselves up off the floor. Maybe a couple cat and cow ripples along the way. Up to downward facing dog. And for those who would like to go through a vinyasa smoothly here, go ahead and do that. Over to the plank, chaturanga of some kind, upward facing dog or cobra, and downward facing dog. And let's lift our right leg up, reaching it up. And we'll go once again to that dog at the high fire hydrant. And then swinging the right leg through to the lunge. Warrior number 1. Grounding that left heel down. Make sure it doesn't cross under the right leg though. And then coming up in the warrior number 1. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back, engaging with the back bendiness of this, working the back muscles a little.
And then we're going to take a long reach forward, finding a flat back, which will be a diagonal line here. So you want to line from your fingertips to that left heel. And then swing the arms back behind you, kind of like Shabasana arms. And then we'll come back up to the warrior one, scooping the tailbone forward as you lift that upper body up and over. And let's do that twice more, not quite so lingeringly. Reaching on that long, flat diagonal. Swinging the arms back, and then they keep going, pulling you back up as you scoop down and under, scooping up and over. And once more. And then here we all are in warrior number one. And let's reach forward and straighten the leg, coming over into Lotus. If you have the block, maybe grabbing that for your left hand. And as straight as you can with the right leg. Couple more breaths here. And then lunging forward, stepping back to the plank, through the vinyasa or not, downward facing dog. And then we'll take 3 deep breaths in our downward facing dog, or else coming into child's pose. All right, here we go, left side, lifting the left leg. 3-legged dog. Bending the left knee dog at the high plank. And to the line. And then let's come up into warrior number one. Really engaging with that. And then we'll reach on the long diagonal forward. Doing a long line from the top of the head out that right foot. And swooping the arms back. Feeling the back of the arms working, and then scoop the tailbone under as we keep reaching through the arms, scooping the upper body up and over, coming back into the warrior one. And then let's do that twice more. Reaching long and flat. Letting those arms swoop back. And then coming up to the warrior one, scooping under and over. And doing that once more. And then we all arrive back in the warrior one. And we'll straighten up that left leg, coming over. maybe grabbing a block for under your right hand and making that left leg as straight as you can. Remember, it's a process. Doesn't have to be all the way straight right now today. And breathing here in Karsvotanasana. And a couple more breaths here. And then lunging forward, stepping back to the plank, through the vinyasa, or not, downward facing dog. Looking between the hands to jump or step forward. Into the concave back, halfway up. Folding over. And let's go back to that wide Malasana, stepping the feet out to the edges of the mat, turning the feet out about 45 degrees, bend the knees, being up higher or lower. Couple deep breaths here. And then, once again, sit down on the floor. And we have our wide legs holding on inside, pulling forward and up. And let's do the twist now. Taking a twist to the right, left hand to the right leg. And a big swoop around, right hand to the left leg. Swooping back to the center. And then we're going to walk the feet together. So instead of floating lotus, we're going to go for in the Malasana, the boat pose. So now our legs are right together, giving those knees a little squeeze. And once again, you put the hands behind the thighs as we balance onto the sitting bones. And let's all just start with shins parallel to the floor. Take a breath. Maybe this is enough. Maybe extending the legs up. So another place you can put the hands is here behind you on the floor. Reaching out through the legs. And then if you want to take the arms off, they go straight forward, palms facing each other, the sides of your boat. All right, so choosing your position, which you can always alter as we try to take 6 to 8 breaths wherever we are. Are you breathing faster than usual? And let's take 1 or 2 more deep breaths. And slowly bend the legs down, and we will roll ourselves down to the floor. And we'll do the bridge pose. So we'll do the feet hip distance apart, the usual sort of a way. So getting that situated, little tuck of the tailbone and peeling yourself up into the bridge pose. Using the interlocked fingers, and then our other option, which I always forget to mention, which is bending the elbows and getting the hands onto the sacrum to give yourself a little bit of support and encourage a little more lift. And then wherever we are, breathe breathing. Every breath adjusting that effort and ease. Sometimes notice one part is working a little too hard. Like I start doing a clench in the gluteus maximus instead of just engaging it. Or I start pressing too hard with the upper arms, and then I can feel it travel up my neck into the jaw. So every breath adjusting, balancing between the 2 feet, the 2 shoulders, the right and the left. And then rolling down, vertebrae by vertebrae, landing on the floor. And let's come back up to sitting, reaching forward, rounding up, and then let the feet come together, knees fall to the side, and Baddha Konasana. And coming forward, inhale and exhale, forward and over. And coming up. And then let's extend those legs straight out in front. So I'm going to turn to face you here. And I will attempt to go back to being a mirror. And here's our legs extended in front. We're going to take the right leg and bring it back, either to the Baddha Konasana or maybe a little further back, shifting that right sitting bone, but thinking of your left leg as the front leg. And then, even though we're sitting on the floor, very active through the legs, reaching through the left heel. Whoops, I'm not being the mirror, am I? Well, I won't be the mirror then. Reaching through the left heel, reaching out the right knee, because we're doing both sides. So there we go. And then we're going to twist to the right, towards your bent leg. And then left hand onto the left leg. And we'll bring that right arm up and over into Parvarita Sasana, over your left leg. So I think we're familiar enough with this that if you're doing over the right leg, you can adjust the right and left in your head. Couple more breaths here. And then coming up, and I'm going to put the right hand on the floor, right behind the left in a line there. So actually, maybe it's better if I turn this way. Right there. So right arm, left leg, opposites, and then maybe taking a little push up into a yoga thingy. And coming down, straightening out that right leg. Split this up. And we'll bring the left leg back. So, other leg. And then take a moment feeling very active through the legs, even though we're sitting on the floor. And we'll twist to the left towards your bent leg. And then right hand on the right leg and reaching out with the left arm up and over. Side bending over the right leg, the straight leg. Keep trying to breathe deeply and not kind of sink under and be crushed by your left side. One or two more deep breaths here. And then coming up. So that left arm pretty much just goes down in the arc it had. So I have the right leg, the left arm, or opposite arm and leg. So maybe you're just going to do this or another little stretch or something, or pressing up into the yoga thingy. Kind of like a kneeling wild thing or something, but not really, I guess. All right. And then let's all come back onto the floor. We'll slide that left leg out next to the right. So, coming forward in Paschimottanasana, pouring over both legs. Reaching out through the heels, reaching to the top of the head, almost like there's a gravitational pull there from the wall across from you. And then pulling yourself down to the floor. Landing on the floor. And here we are in Shabasana. And if there's any other thing you need or want to do, go ahead. Inhale and exhale. Landing into the floor. Choosing your arm position. Letting the eyes soften and close. And with every breath, letting go a little more. Feeling the weight of the body getting heavier and heavier. And as you get heavier and heavier, finally you just land into that wave of the breath. And then moving the fingers and toes. Circling of the wrists and the ankles. Stretching those arms up overhead if you didn't already. And bend the knees. And gently making your way up to sitting. To sit in any comfortable position with that long and spacious spine. And then we'll reach out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips, reaching the arms up parallel to the floor. A little press back and then crossing the right arm under. Maybe just holding your shoulders. Or wrapping the lower arms into the eagle pose. Inhale and exhale, breathing between the shoulder blades. And then untwine the arms. If you have the crossed legs or something and you want to switch sides with that, go ahead. And then once again, reaching out through the arms. Crossing the left arm under. Maybe that's good enough here, holding the shoulders. Or wrapping those lower arms into the eagle pose. Breathing here. And untwine the arms, a big stretch out, bringing the hands onto your knees, taking a few more moments, sitting quietly inside yourself. Namaste. Thank you for coming.